What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and today we'll be continuing our little introduction to the Venthyr rogue ability that literally just came out of the game development easy bake oven, Flagellation. Now that I've had a pretty ample amount of time to try it out, it's time we took a thorough look at this brand new Covenant ability. So as you can tell, this is a follow-up to my speculation video I did just yesterday on the brand new Venthyr rogue ability, Flagellation. Thankfully, I wasn't too far off the mark on a lot of my assumptions, but we'll get into that in just a bit. First, I'll go over exactly what Flagellation is as of right now in the Shadowlands beta. And as I almost always mention, but especially this time, even though we're a month away from release, this is still beta information. Heck, this is like a 2-day-old ability we're looking at, so don't take the damage numbers or even too much of the exact functionality of this ability too seriously. On the bright side, I can tell you it's actually halfway pretty good already, though there are a number of quirks and bugs to it. If you end up liking this video, I'd sincerely appreciate any comments, likes, or new subscribers to help fuel the YouTube algorithm's insatiable hunger, and so you'll be able to keep up with all the WoW-oriented Shiba Shenanigans I put on YouTube every weekday. So, Flagellation. This is an instant cast melee range move with a 25-second cooldown, though it's not quite that simple. I'll explain. When you cast Flagellation on a target, they are then whipped with Anima Lashes 3 times. Each of these strikes deals shadow damage and applies a stacking debuff called, what a surprise, Flagellation. This debuff lasts for 45 seconds, and every time you spend combo points, the flagellated target... Flagellated's totally a word, I swear, look it up. Anyways, every time you spend combo points, the target with the Flagellation debuff will take shadow damage per combo point spent. Once you reach 25 stacks of Flagellation, your ability will then start glowing. Once it does this, you can re-trigger the Flagellation move and will take the debuff off your target and grant you 10% mastery for 25 seconds, and the ability will then start recovering its cooldown. So that's the basics of what the ability should do, so let's go through a couple tests and see what actually happens. Oh, and the animation, because I know quite a few of you were interested in what flagellating someone looks like. I mean, well, you did ask. Unfortunately, I don't have much to show you, and not just because the video would probably get demonetized. There is no cool animation to it yet. All you do is spin around in a circle when you cast it, so yeah, no cool effects or anything like that in beta yet. And your weapons still turn red like they did when you used Slaughter for whatever reason. Hoping for something cool in the future, but I figured I'd let you all know that ahead of time, and I hate to disappoint you, as I know I was when I saw that there wasn't any cool animation or special effects to it yet. Oh well. To begin with, and this is one of the things I brought up in my speculation video, you do not have to spend combo points on the target with Flagellation active on them, meaning this will not really hinder our target swapping needs too much, which is great news as it means we won't be stuck on the same target the whole time. It also counts any combo point spent, so even Slice and Dice will apply stacks of Flagellation to your target. However, this can be problematic if you need to CC something, but it still has the Flagellation debuff active. The only weird quirk I've found with this ability so far is if you're spending combo points from too far away, they don't get tracked on the target. I don't have an exact distance for how far away you can be for the combo points to still apply, but it's slightly further range than between the eyes, so I'm gonna guess that it's 25 yards. And don't quote me on that unless I'm right, then you can definitely quote me. Next, remember how I mentioned that 10% mastery part for 25 seconds thing? Yeah, it's only 10% from a certain point of view. What the mastery benefit is currently doing with Flagellation is that it's taking 10% of your mastery stat and adding it to your mastery. So for instance, if you only have like 180 mastery, it's only gonna give you 18. So I sincerely hope that that's a bug and it means to have a flat percent of mastery added to your total, because otherwise that's not very good unless you were to have a metric ton of mastery, which again isn't a great idea due to the secondary stat diminishing return effect, which occurs when you stack a certain stat too high in Shadowlands. Again, this ability is literally 2 days old, so I'm not surprised that there are issues. I'm just trying to point them out as early as possible so that they can get fixed and tuned appropriately. And so you folks might get a little amusement about what ends up in the game sometimes. That's always fun too. Something interesting I've found through testing and that a regular commenter of mine mentioned, and I think it is at least partially due to the mastery buff being so puny, you're actually better off just letting the full 45 seconds of Flagellation continue on the target, even after you've spent enough combo points to be able to trigger the mastery buff. Tuning numbers are still largely debatable and most likely not final. However, Anima Lashings are doing a moderate amount of damage, but less than what it sounded like from the tooltip that WoW had data mined. Currently, it's making up about 6.5% of my single target damage as Outlaw, and nearly 9% as Subtlety by not ending the Flagellation effect early. This so far seems like another example of why no one likes premature Flagellations, as it does seem to affect your performance quite a bit. The damage difference seen by Subtlety is due to the Deeper Dagger's Conduit, which buffs the Flagellation damage since it's again Shadow. Something I anticipated as well, and in this case it makes more sense to me than the weapon enchants or weapon oils or whatever being buffed by the Conduit. I'm still uncertain how that will be handled in the future, but for now, Subtlety can definitely see some very good use of this ability, especially in sustained AoE where you're able to burn through a lot of combo points via Shuriken Storm and Shadow Vault. Assassination, being the lowest action per minute spec of the game, sees less damage overall than Outlaw does with this ability, unfortunately, which honestly wasn't too surprising to see in practice. Also, as I expected, if a target dies with the Flagellation buff active on them, the ability goes on cooldown immediately. If the target is at 25 stacks when they die though, you'll immediately get the mastery buff, so that is a plus that it isn't wasted. If they aren't, however, then it will just go on cooldown and you'll have to wait the 25 seconds to apply it again. Something I found out that was kinda interesting is if the buff falls off naturally after the 45-second duration and you reached 25 stacks, then you'll be able to trigger the buff whenever you want. On top of that, the ability is technically already on cooldown since the debuff is no longer present on your target, so you can actually use the mastery buff effect at the same time as your next flagellation if you wait 25 seconds from the time the debuff dropped off of your target. Not sure if that'll ever be useful, but it will allow for a little extra burstiness, or it'll just let you time when you want to pop the mastery buff, which is kinda cool. Also, as a heads up, triggering the mastery effect of flagellation is not on the GCD, so that is kinda useful information. We unfortunately don't know what the new conduit will be for this Covenant ability yet, which could potentially see some further enhancements to the damage and usefulness of Flagellation. However, it would be competing for one of only 3 possible potency slots on any Soulbind tree. However, that means it has to compete with any of the spec-specific ones, and a lot of them are pretty darn strong, so that's going to be up in the air for now. Judging from some of the other potency conduits that are tied to Covenant abilities, at least for the rogue-related ones, I wouldn't be the gambling man to put money on this one yet until we see some insight on what the conduit might actually do. What might be a nice conduit effect for Flagellation is if it makes your lashed target deal AoE burst damage whenever a lash is applied to them, giving it a little bit of an AoE benefit as well, but that's kinda just speculation and an idea I had when I was thinking about it. While most of these are definitely oversights, there are a couple bugs with this move currently. For one thing, you have that one weird combo point distance issue that I mentioned, so if you end up really far away from your flagellated target due to mechanics or target swapping, it won't gain any stacks. The ability is also not yet buffed by acrobatic strikes, though I would guarantee that will be fixed before it reaches live, as that's an obvious oversight on their part. And the third weird thing I've run into is that if 2 rogues use flagellation on the same target, the second rogue's debuff will not actually hit it. Meaning, if you're the second rogue, you'll have to wait for 45 seconds that you would have been applying the stacks, and then another 25 seconds for the cooldown. So yeah, that's kinda lame and very obviously a bug. This move is honestly very intriguing to me. On one hand, you have a very obviously single target focused damage component that doesn't make you completely waste the effect, unless, the target becomes immune or something. Subtlety makes extremely potent use of this move due to the sheer amount of combo points they can generate from Shuriken Storm while in AoE. And since Subtlety can burn through a lot of combo points very quickly, meaning you are getting a lot of extra lash damage on your target. On the other hand, once the mastery buff is hopefully changed to be a flat percentage increase like the tooltip makes it sound like it should, it may be viable to instead burn through the combo points really quickly to try and get your mastery buff from Flagellation back as quickly as possible, which would help in both single target and AoE. Again, I'm not judging this move strictly off of its damage just yet, but even now it is already looking to be the second highest damaging Covenant ability, behind of course the almighty Serrated Bone Spike. I'm still pretty skeptical of anything being able to topple the Necrolord's ability in overall usefulness in its current iteration, but at the very least I would like to see Flagellation become the premier single target oriented Covenant ability. I hope this video gave you folks some good insight into the new Venthyr rogue ability Flagellation. If you enjoyed this video and are new around here, I'd like to welcome you to come check out the rest of the channel. I do new uploads every weekday on a variety of WoW related content, with plenty of rogue related videos such as this one. As always, I'd like to thank all of my regular commenters, viewers, subscribers, and especially my patrons for helping make these Shiba Shenanigans possible. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.